Yo. There it is. Yeah.
Yeah, that falsetto.
Na 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 na. You and the goddamn falsetto.
Actually hit that note.
Welcome back to the Bridges We Burn
podcast.
Woo. Yeah. We're doing it.
Dude. You're doing it big.
We're doing you.
Oh, don't say that, dude. We can't do that.
Okay, all right. I'm sorry.
not without consent, but yes.
Well, that's probably a good point. We'll ask later in the show for sure.
Yeah, dude.
What's up, man? How you doing?
Nothing much, dude. Got this fresh tea on, Cobra Kai. Always about the villain, you know?
I like it. Yeah, just represent. Show me that shirt a little bit.
Oh, look at this. This Cobra Kai shirt. My God.
Oh, is that the one? That's the one you got in Biloxi, right?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. Hot topic Biloxi. You know where it's at.
Yeah,
I got
dude.
you.
Fucking nice.
Yeah, that was a weird thing to find in Hot Topic. But I mean, Hot Topic had
everything.
You know. All right, so we're going to show how old we are here. Hot Topic used to be a store that goth people and people who really liked like dark emo music used to go into.
Yes.
And that's where they would buy all their clothes. And that's what got Hot Topic sold. Like they had some goofy stuff in there, but it was primarily all for music.
Yeah.
We went in there and it is a straight up weeboo store now.
Dude, there's everything.
Everything in it is anime related. It's the craziest 180. It's so funny. But I guess that's a business model that you pivot on, right? So
yeah, that's true.
Whatever.
I mean,
works for them. There were a bunch of people still in that store. Either that or Biloxi is like got a real huge Biloxi, Mississippi. Shout out to Biloxi, baby. Y'all are anime freaks.
Loves anime and Salamuki's the best in town. You know what I'm saying?
Dude, Salamuki's, yeah, it's the best in town. For real though, that place is fire.
Yeah, dude, it's so good. I mean, the pizza and then the shirts, and then mostly the pizza, dude.
Bro, I'm so sad that we didn't get one of those tie-dye shirts though.
I know. I think we just got to make our own and then rebrand it just to say Bridges Be Burned, the best in town.
Yes. Yeah, that'll be the first. Right after the Johnny Walker Blue label, that'll be the first thing that we go for. Please sponsor us, for the love of God, please. J Baby Blue. Let me tell you about Johnny Walker Blue. It's got a special place in my heart. I don't regularly drink liquor. Really, I don't. Johnny Walker Blue, though, is the only velvety smooth whiskey that I let purse these beautiful lips of mine. Technically blended Scotch whiskey, but you know, beggars can't be choosers, especially when you're paying $200 a bottle, bro.
Yeah,
then you definitely can't be a beggar or a chooser.
No, you just live in that lifestyle. You're living that blue lifestyle.
You gotta keep it on deck, though, right? You gotta keep it at your desk because you never know when you're gonna have one of those days where you're like, successful or unsuccessful, I'm gonna need a long draw off of Johnny tonight.
Yes, there you go, dude.
Gotta put Johnny in my mouth and just get it all nice and just get it in there. Maybe I get the rocks, put it on the rocks. Yeah, that's the way to do it.
Dude, I second that motion, so it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah. Velvety, smooth, blue Johnny. Right there.
I had to give you that moment of silence just to pitch that idea.
I appreciate it. It did wonders for the joke, I think. All right.
Dude.
Talking about Johnny Walker, out of the way. That's always one of the first things that we do.
Yeah, dude.
Back to it. How's the week been? What you been up to?
Dude, for me, it's been pretty eventful. Came back from a nice little 2-day vacation. You know, I was off for 2 days before I got just
with the boys. Well, technically,
the
2 days that he's talking about were after he was off hanging out with the boys, because I was powerlifting meet last week, and then I went to Mississippi. If you watch the last episode, you know what we're talking about.
Yeah,
but
dude.
And then that's nice though. You got like a 2-day compression before you actually went to.
Oh, you actually went just right before
back to work, right?
Right there, right before work again.
Let's talk about your work week. How many hours did you work last week? In 4 days?
Well, let's say in 4 days. I mean, I didn't do the math for 4 days, but I did do the math for 3 days, which is a little over 46 hours. So,
46 hours in 3 days. So you worked a normal, longer than a normal work week for people in 5 days and 3.
Yeah.
This dude had, what, did you have 2 days with 3 triple shifts on it?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of
Fucking
just,
lunatic.
dude, I kind of just went home, then just sat in my bed, and then my eyes opened, and I was already at work again. So it was the fastest teleportation thing I've ever done in my whole life. So it's been good, though. It's been good. It's been good. Like, right after that, I felt revitalized, went back into the gym to train, and then today was, oh boy, your boy is trying to make it bigger, better for the next meet. So today was grip training. So we were trying to explain right here is for grip training, for all the people that know anything in lifting, especially for powerlifting, it just helps you, capitalize and get the most maximum gain that you can for lifting that bar, especially for a deadlift, right?
Yeah. Putting that bar in your hands, lifting it real strong.
Yeah, dude. So for this whole time,
lifting it up,
yeah, dude,
lifting it down,
just lifting.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Just straight lift anything and then you'll be strong. But with this, we have these machines. Well, not really machines. We just have these handles that have prongs on it so you can just slap weight on it. I always thought I had the misconception that a few people told me, like, yeah, they're only like 26 pounds per handle. It's not billet, so it's just nice. It's just nice aluminum. But later to find out today, after I threw on the weights, because my coach, he just heard me walk it and then slam the weights afterwards. He's like, oh, how much you put on there? Like a 45 and a 25? I was like, nah, I put four 45s, 2 on each side of the handle, and then picked up the handle. He's like, those are 52 pounds a handle? I'm like, no, I did not. Mark, let's do the quick math. You decided to walk 15 yards with 232 pounds on each hand. Okay, now you're going to replicate that again.
I see what I mean. This is honestly, I swear to God, how many years have I been saying this to you now? That you just need to take off all the fucking weight markings on the plates in the gym, and you just need to go work out. Like, you need to just go put stuff on racks and not even look at it and be like, just go until you get tired. Because I swear to you that you could probably lift 40% more weight than you actually physically think that you can, because you get so mentally blocked with like, this is the number that I was able to hit before. And then you go walk out and do some freak shit like lift 232 pounds. And it's like, oh yeah, I was just doing this as a regular set. And your coach is like, I am going to literally kill you.
Yeah, dude, but it was crazy because I didn't know. So it was one of those, like, I was trying to do the math. I'm like, all right, whatever. Now let's do some static holds so I can, like, get better with the grip training. So physically just ended up throwing some more weight on there, and you just kind of just stand in place. You brace yourself, you pick up the weight, and you hold for about 10 to 15 seconds before your grip lets go, and pray to God that you don't get slapped in the foot and lose your toes. So I did that, and I ended up, my top set was 292, so we added about 50 more pounds for each hand, and I was able to do it a couple times. But theoretically, in my bro mind, for bro math, if I can do almost 300 pounds per hand, if I put them together, that's almost 600 pounds I could lift on the bar. And I wish that were true, but one day it will be. These hands will reach 6.
Well, your grip training, grip strength training must have exploded in these last 2 months here because of all the pull-up training that you've been doing, right?
Yeah, it's been that, the pull-up training, and then also being able to lift without straps anymore. So usually for the just to keep it safe and secure.
Mark, your camera's doing something funny right now.
Ooh.
It keeps in and out focusing. Never mind, continue.
Oh,
stop.
Okay. Yeah, but I think what it is, it's like just for being secure and just to help on the wrist strain, you use straps on heavier lifts so you can feel the weight and still grind it out. So by the time you train, you won't be needing the straps anymore. I haven't really used straps in the last, like, give or take, like, several months because of, like,
I was going to say, I was never a fan of using straps. It's always such an awkward. It's always such an awkward mechanism, or I guess not mechanism. It's always such an awkward movement and thing to just incorporate into a lift when you're already trying to focus on lifting something that's like super heavy. Now you got to focus on changing your form in order to compensate for that wrist strap in your palm, or like it was always just a point of mad concentration loss for me.
Yeah. So I ended up just like X-raying it. But I still have them in my backpack if I do just want to like try to, try to get that ego boost up. I'm like, okay, I'm going to pull this. And then eventually if I just train hard enough, I won't need the straps anymore. So I just have them as backup. And then whoever needs the straps, I'm more than willing to like, here, try these straps. So it was good today. Training was good, and then your boy hit some cardio, did some jump ropes. So still one of the fastest at 222. So 222 hit me up with some weighted ropes to get some double, triple unders, baby. Whoo, buddy. But other than that, it's been good.
So
it's been good.
Everybody, Mark worked out, and he went to work a lot this week.
Yeah.
Ultra fascinating. Mark, that's not why we're here. That's not why we're here, bro. We don't. We don't come to Bridges We Burn to talk about the good stuff, the easy stuff that happened during the week. I got it in the gym. I gotta get it at work. No, that's not why we're here, bro.
Well,
you know.
It was very.
And you know. Well, I mean, you probably don't know, but like,
eventually you'll know.
You'll get it. You'll get it here soon. So, like, what else going on this week, Mark? How do we? What would you have anything? You have anything juicy? How about any debilitating scenarios?
Oh.
anything that was rattling around in that brain space of yours that didn't make it out or made it past the gym or made it out of past work?
Yeah. Oh,
you know what I mean.
Yes, of course. There's this one struggling topic that I just told you the highlights of my week, right?
Yeah.
The thing
the lowlights.
Yeah, the lowlights, that dim,
I want
light,
the greasy crackheads on the south side of Detroit. I don't know if the south side of Detroit is nice or not. Never been to Detroit. I'm assuming that none of Detroit is nice, so the south side probably also not nice. Yeah. Those are the greasy crackheads that we want, though. Did they do crack there? I don't know. Whatever. You know what I'm saying.
Yeah, dude. But, wait for it. All right, composed. So
I was going to say.
No, there's just been nagging thing that I'm trying to put two and two together from work and the gym, and it's always this constant that I thought about. Like, as soon as I leave work, and as soon as I get to the gym and I'm prepping and I'm working out, it's like, well, will it be, for me at least, enough? Right? Me working these long, like, stimulating hours, which sometimes I feel like they don't amount to what, like, the effort I'm actually putting in to, right? It's the same. I get the same kind of jittery feeling when I get to the gym, and I've been thinking about it for the past couple of days since I've been working out again. It's that, will these next attempts for my meet be enough to satisfy my hunger to the ultimate goal, right? So it kind of just intertwined with work. So there's when I have downtime at work, I think about it, and it's just one of those things that, well, right now on the podcast, we can help each other out by discussing it, because it's not been eating, but it's just like a small nag that kind of that little festering
on repeat.
Feeling.
That nagging on loop. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. So are you saying? So let me break that back down a little bit here. So you're having a difficulty with putting in the work at work and worried about the result that's going to come after the end of it, right? The end product.
Yeah.
Like, is this grind right now going to net gain me something that's positive, that's worth that time in the end, right?
Yeah.
That's what you're thinking?
Yeah, and it's not the long term, because which is really great about my position and my job, which I love so much, is like the groups that we face, or the clients in the groups that we encounter, it's always something different, right? There's always it's always a new, fresh chapter. So with this one, it's just one of those things that I always hit restart on, because is it going to be enough, and what can I pull from that, from my successes and failures, which will lead me into the next group or the next venture that I'm heading into at work, and how can that relate, or how does that relate with my gym successes and failures for my next meet? Since I already had the first meet out of the way, that's kind of my baseline. So with that being said, would my baseline be enough? and to propel me forward into the next one, right? For my next future one. So that's it's kind of intertwined with my work and also like outside of work, my physical side. So, but
Interesting. Well, I mean, I'll say this because I obviously you're aware that I was going through something pretty similar this week in my own space as well.
Yeah.
Right. Based off of Mark and I had a very lengthy, very, very good conversation on Monday this week about some things that I was going through personally, which I will definitely get into today. But I don't want to detract from what you got going on right now.
Yeah.
It sounds very similar to what it is that's going on with me, where you are, and I'm sure a ton of people can relate to this because I immediately can relate to this. You're getting stuck on the end result, right? This is something that I've been rolling with this week, just to an insane degree, really. And it is, how to put this succinctly, it's so easy to get wrapped up at that end piece, right? And forget about all the middle parts, right? The entirety of the journey, really. And not to sound cliche, obviously, this is probably going to tap into that realm, but you have to focus on. This is the realization that I've come to this week, is that when you're able to appreciate every single step of the way that you take. My dog just opened my door, everyone. I just want to let you know that he has the capability to use the handle on the door and open the door. So give me one brief moment. We're going to clip this, Mark.
All right. Doon, 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 doon. We're not gonna clip it. This is fun. Doon, 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 doon. Doon, 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 doon.
Okay, we're back.
Doon, 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 doon.
Oh, this is so noisy. I should have put my mic on mute before I did that.
Yeah, no, it's all good.
Technical
that was
difficulties.
for you. That was for you, Alex Trebek. You're all in.
Hey, bright side. Yeah, right. Shout out to Trebek. Yeah. May you rest in peace forever. I'd pour out some Johnny Walker Blue, but I don't want to do it on my floor, so
yeah,
it's just a bad look. But breaking news. Moving to the new house in 2 weeks, though.
Oh, new podcast space.
I was like, new podcast space. I don't know what I'm going to do with it yet, but yeah, it's gonna be great. Okay, so anyways, so I gotta get back on track. How come your recording is twice the size of mine? What is happening with that?
I don't know. I'm fucking G. I don't fucking know. Fucking, it's all this new tech that I'm running, dude.
I'm a fucking G, he says. I will punch you square in the goddamn mouth.
Do it.
the whole setup explodes. That's the power of the best, baby. Okay. So now that we have clipped back in.
Yes. And composed. All right.
I was like, it's not awkward if I stare, is it? Okay. So.
But what?
We were discussing. Mark's severe autism and how it's impacting the actual recording process of our medium here.
All right, no, let's just keep going. Let's keep going. I need a comedic break. So the people that are subscribed to YouTube can see that. The people that are listening to this podcast, there's an awkward silence of just.
There's no blooper reels, Mark. There's no blooper reels. You don't get blooper reels. This is real. You get every single second of this. What?
The power of editing.
Right, exactly. So we were briefly discussing what Mark's main issue is here, which is getting stuck on the end result.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is that the the effort that you're putting forward right now is something that you're worried about resulting into something that is going to be an affirmed belief for you, I guess, is a way of saying that. So it's going to be something that you, right, think that you are supposed to be achieving.
Yeah.
Right? You've got an ideal in your head, and it's, I'm going to be A, right? And you're worried that if you put in all that work, you're not going to get to A, you're going to get to B.
Yeah.
And you're not going to be content, right?
Yeah, it's not going to be like, and I feel like a lot of people can relate to that, because like you can put it in any real world scenario that other people are facing, that, that the efforts that we put in from a day to day, no matter the smallest of goals or the biggest of goals, to reach that end goal, there's that small seed of doubt that just goes in that loop and that repeat, that like, well, what if you don't reach it? What is your alternative exit out? Right? Because
right.
that feeling that some people get, right, is like that second doubt kind of nature, that is like, well, if it's not good enough, do I keep pursuing it, or I need to find another medium or a source out, so
right.
I can play it safe. And then for me, with my goal oriented like way of doing things, I guess, with my manner, is I try not to find a way out unless it deems necessary, because with work, with how I live my life, how I look at things now in the past several years, is like, when you take that way out, sometimes it's
weakness.
It's weakness, right?
Right.
For me,
right.
it definitely is weakness. So I just kind of, I don't want to say that you have to spearhead everything and just see what can prevail on the other side, but the small steps of precaution help, but it shouldn't overshadow you. Like right now, this week, it's been overshadowing me, that, hey, what if this end result isn't going to be good enough for the client? Or now I drop this and it kind of lingers and seeps through my outside life. Hey, what if this lift is not going to be good enough to obtain what I need to do to hit nationals?
Yeah.
Right?
Okay. So I get where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I get where you're coming from. So we had a like I had alluded to earlier, we had a discussion earlier this week that brought up a lot of the same stuff for me. And it's funny how that works out, how we're always so closely in line to walking the same path. I think it's always hysterical to me. Yeah. I mean, not hysterical, but universally coincidental. So, I've been doing a real deep dive into this exact same thing.
Yeah.
Right. And I have, I don't even want to riff on this. Right. So I have uptaken doing journaling.
Yeah.
In the last couple of weeks here, and it's really been helping me focus in on the areas that I'm finding to be problematic in my life, as well as a couple of other things that I'm doing. I started doing some therapeutic sessions with this lovely lady, Angela Moya, who is a life coach and a PhD in biology. She is a wonderful human being. She teaches yoga. She is a counselor for people with eating disorders. Really, really well-rounded person. And we've been going through just some basic things, and Mark and I have been kind of accidentally stumbling through the same briar patch, if you will. And I don't know if that's because I've been dragging him along with me through that, or we really are just that closely aligned on this. But, right? So this is what I wrote earlier today, right? So often I'm caught up in trying to answer all my questions at once. Am I good enough? Do I practice enough? Where should my practice be taking me? Is my progress enough? Do I need to buckle down more? Do I need to find more relaxation? How do I find peace? How do I bring that peace to the world, right? Literally, how do I mobilize myself to be the better version that I want while not sacrificing something that's inside of me, right?
Yeah.
And it's buckling down to buckling down and really relying on that strength and that discipline, right? We talked about this previously in the week, that the first 2 chapters that we've really been working on here have been strength and discipline, right?
Yeah.
We've really been focused on, one, finding the strength to say, I'm worth changing, I'm worth making these moves, I'm worth the time that it's going to take to be better, right? And then as we go through that chapter, you kind of roll into the second one, which is discipline, which is taking that strength and normalizing it. It's giving it a routine. It's giving it life in your everyday, so that it's not something that's just an abnormal occurrence where you can say, look at that event, I can't believe I was able to do that. It's something that you get every single day, right?
Yeah.
That's what our routines are. That's what and being in the gym is. That's what our dietary plans are. And so for the longest time, that strength and that discipline was our way of getting out of our comfort zone.
Yeah.
So our comfort zones were in ease, right? They were in relaxation.
Yeah.
And now, after these last 2 years, we've gone from one side of the yin-yang circle to the other, right? We've gone from the chaos into the order, basically. And we have, at least for me, but I'm going to assume this is probably going to ring true for you as well, we've gotten actually distracted by the fact that what we think is us pushing outside of our comfort zones is actually our new comfort zone.
Yeah, like we're building upon another bay where it's just smooth sailing, right?
What we couldn't have imagined of ourselves 2 years ago, right? Being in the gym regularly, having lost cumulatively, what have we lost? 170, 180 pounds cumulatively between the two of us?
Yeah, another human baby, so.
Right. Like being in the gym 6 days a week, being in the gym 2 hours a day, 6 days a week, like really working on ourselves. And I was talking to my mom earlier today, and it was like, it's so incredible to me how natural it's become.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think about eating right anymore. I don't think about going to the gym. I just do it. I don't think about waking up at 6 a.m. I don't think about my morning routine. I do, but I don't think about prepping my meals and getting my head together for my meditations. I just do it.
Yeah.
And it's become comfortable.
Yeah.
And I've relied on it, right?
It becomes very habitual, right? It's like the not like, let's say in that term, like, I don't want to say mundane, but that's our comfort. Just like it becomes just the norm for us now, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Being as daunting as it was before to think about, right? Where those stress factors skyrocket because I'm like, oh, I won't be able to compromise with myself to be able to do these things. Now has become an actualization of just like, this is us now. Trying to step out of that is kind of getting the same feelings and awareness of like popping back up.
This is the thing. This is the thing. Okay. So I was thinking about, that analogy that I was talking to you about with the man on the mountain, the Shaolin monk analogy.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about that earlier today, and what I realized is that I thought that I'd been climbing a mountain this entire time.
Yeah.
And when I heard that analogy, that was the perspective that I took it from, is that I've been climbing the mountain. All I have to do is keep climbing. All I got to do is keep on this same pathway. But what I realized is that my strength, that was one mountain.
Yeah.
I came up that mountain. I came down that mountain. And I came into a valley, right? And I had a low point there. And then I found my second mountain, right? Which was my discipline. And then I climbed that mountain. And I came up that mountain. And I came down that mountain. And where I'm at right now in this last week is I have been so focused on burying my head, putting my head down and just doing work, right? And I think that a lot of people might get this. You get so focused on just doing work, so focused on putting that little voice in the back of your head straight into the dirt and saying, I'm going to go farther than you say that I can, right? And part of the difficulty here is that when you've gotten to a point where I think you and I have, where you've grown healthily, you've grown organically and honestly, and you've looked at yourself in the mirror every day and you've challenged everything that you believed in, everything that you held true, and you really got through the bullshit, right? I think that the reason why you come to that head of suffering now, when you've gotten so far, is because you finally stripped away all the bullshit. You finally stripped away all the lies. You finally stripped away all the things that you're discontented with, and now you just have to deal with the real version of you.
Yeah.
Now it's down to when you cry wolf. You're not crying wolf anymore. You're crying out in actual physical or mental trauma, right? That voice in the back of your head, as that gets louder and louder and louder and louder, and the voices multiply and they start to come in from different directions, and all those questions start firing off. Am I good enough? Do I work hard enough? Is this going to be enough? Am I going to if I'm going to get where I need to be if I put in this work and this work and this work? But what if all of that amounts to nothing? And what you have to reel back and focus in on now is when you say stop, right?
Yeah.
You need to stop. You need to find that. You have to find ease, right? This is the next chapter, the next mountain.
Yeah.
Is picking your head up off the ground where it's been for so long and just pushing through. Now you have to pick your head up and you have to take in everything that's around you. You have to choose where you're going to go next. And you have to do it without the fear of, is it going to be the right choice? It's not as, before you just pointed, you just picked and pointed and you were like, that one, I'm going to do that one. And then you just went because there was so much space before you. And now you've gotten to the point where your path is starting to narrow.
Yeah.
And you've got to be more strategic. You've got to be more focused. You have to be more present in your day-to-day. And that's literally exactly where I came to for me this week.
Yeah.
Is that. So I mean, I could rattle on for this for another 25 minutes.
Yeah, of course, but it's just
me at some point.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was just, you're giving out this advice, which we're trying to have everyone, not adhere to it, but like it's just like it touches base with some people that's listening right now, and it's just one of those things that is touching base with me because it's helping me realize that coming about this, I was looking at it, it's like, well, there's times where I really just want to pump the brakes, right? But I don't want to pump the brakes and do a halt. And then out of nowhere, I'm looking at all these directions. And then that stretch of road becomes even longer and longer because I've kept pumping the brakes and stopping so often. And then having that doubt, right? So that's my doubt, is like pumping the brakes with like, is this going to be good enough? Is this going to be where I need to go? How am I going to obtain this? So I feel that what I just got from you is that being able to have that sense of direction, not just to shorten that road, is to help it a little bit more clear, right? In a sense of like, well, you don't want to be wrapped up in tunnel vision the rest of your life, but being able just to slowly tap on that brake a little bit just to find that ease, so you're able to propel yourself further, just that jolt faster. So
yeah, and I would very much so say here that I think you're misconstruing it just a bit here, and okay. This is just a lack of this is very new for me, so I'm still trying to figure out exactly how to put this into the right words.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, for me, I have been going through, the last 10 days have been, let's just put this out here. The last 10 days for me have been absolutely abysmal. Yeah. I have had so much anxiety. and so much doubt and so many voices telling me every single poor thing that I could possibly hear. They have been nitpicking and they have been pointing out flaws, and I have been feeding them, right? There was a quote from someone, I don't know what I saw today, but it was something along the lines of, there's nothing in this world that can survive without food, without energy, right? And that same thing goes for the voices that are inside of your head. Mm-hmm. They're feeding off of something, and the only person that can feed them is you. That internal struggle that you're having is in some way providing those machinations with power. It's giving them voice. And the way that you deal with those, and the way that, I shouldn't say you, the way that I had to deal with those was talking to Mark and getting real and really opening up about the way that I was feeling, what the anxieties that I was having. And those anxieties were essentially the same thing that you're coming forward with, but extremely magnified for me, because I was with a magnifying glass examining these different parts of my life, right? So yeah. Mark and I are taking off with this podcast. We're trying to make moves, right? We're looking into ways of starting up our YouTube channel and how we want to go about being successful with that. We're looking into ways of possibly taking this into a business in the future and how to start with that. And on top of that, we're still trying to juggle our 50-hour, well, my 50-hour week job, right? And your 80-hour a week job.
Yeah.
Right?
It's pretty long.
Being in the gym 2 hours a day, right? Running from, for me, 6 a.m. to 8:30 p.m. almost every day of the week. Mm-hmm. For you, later hours than that, almost every day of the week.
Yeah. And
my mom said it in a great way today. She goes, you're so into this right now that you don't even realize the toll that it's taking on you. You're pushing so hard that you're not even really paying attention to the fact that you're just stressing your body and your mind and all these other things out. And it definitely is something that has for sure been stressing me the fuck out. So I have this conversation with Mark, and I basically came to this crux of what came up today, which was how to put this. Focusing too much on the goal, right?
Yeah.
We become so goal oriented that we've lost sight of the value of the steps to get there. We've lost sight of the moments that make that goal great. And I started today to focus on one thing at a time. This was my way of cutting through this. So instead of trying to go about the way that I normally would go about my day, which is wake up, watch a podcast, and then think about that podcast, and then think about work, and then think about what we need to be looking for our podcast and what I could be looking at for our business, and right, trying to answer all these questions in my life all at the same time. Like, how do we become successful as fast as possible? How do I get out of this 9 to 5? How do I reconcile, moving in with Theron and Sierra into this apartment, into this house? What are the challenges that are going to come from there? What are the challenges with my weight loss going forward? What are the challenges with my working out, right? All these voices in my head are the problem for me. And focusing on one thing at a time is how I'm getting them to stop. Okay, so I put this into practice today. This is a very much so a meditative technique. It's actually, as I grow into the practice of meditation, I am fully and absolutely certain that this is what the point of meditation is, or at least I think is supposed to be.
Yeah.
Is being able to do one thing and be fully present with it throughout the entirety of the time that you're doing it. It is committing to an experience and perceiving it fully, right? Whether it is, for me, it was making bacon and eggs this morning. Okay. So I took a day of rest today. Let's put it that way. And knew that I needed to get my house in order, right? So I had that conversation with you on Monday, and I was in such a good mood. Like, seriously, I was so freaking high off of just the revelation of being able to be vulnerable, right? And this was the key thing for me, was by allowing myself to really express how I was feeling, I was able to... Man, I'm just having a real hard time expressing this today.
Yeah.
I don't know what...
It's like, what I feel like when I draw the picture, so the way how I see when we do the podcast or we have our conversations, especially on the phone, it's that now that I've included like reading and trying to expand my imagination a little bit more, and just diving into that realm that I'm really interested in, you're my book. Whatever you say in your novel, I'm trying to create that picture in my head, right? With the questions that I ask, you're my spark notes of that novel. So like when you were talking about like the revelations and stuff that you and stuff that being vulnerable, all I could picture, if we had an animator guy, it just like could paint this all off and it'd be really cool storytelling. It's like as you're speaking, I just see an open patch field of an armor a knight without his armor being able to take on anything that's thrown to him, just as that scene in Braveheart. That's what I can picture, because that's how my head works. No matter what it is, I draw these images in my head while you're trying to explain, and then from that, it's like when you're writing down notes. If I don't understand the word, I draw a picture, at least to try to give me the context clues of like what this should possibly mean to me. So it's like either a phrase or something that you've thought of, or like some riddle that I can't just figure out on my own, is that I just keep expanding on these pictures. That's how my mind works.
No, that's incredibly interesting, because my mind does not work like that in any way, shape, or form. As far as, well, I mean, the creative imagery that comes along in my mind absolutely works like that, but like I've never actually put pen to paper and drawn or done anything like that. So that's a really fascinating little insight there, into how your head kind of compartmentalizes those things and puts them into a way that you can understand. And honestly, I had a very similar analogy that I was putting together in my head about this whole thing earlier this week, and it was, so I think that I want to stay on this vulnerability topic, because I think that this is the problem that I'm having with being able to express this portion of it in relation to what I'm going through right now. And my hang up over the course of the last 10 days has been an acknowledgement of the fact that I am absolutely terrified of what is going to come next, because for the first time in my life, there is, I think, a calling. There's something that is reaching out to me and saying, this could be your future. And not just a future that somebody else planned, or that the world said that I needed via college, or this is what I should do, but this is something that genuinely resonates with me, right? This podcast being successful, this possibility of creating a business, this possibility of scrapping my 9-to-5 job.
Yeah.
And at some point in the future, being able to pick up and do this. That's exciting to me in a way that emblazons my passions. And I have had in the recent weeks this fear build up in the pit of my stomach that is based entirely in, am I good enough to chase this dream?
Yeah.
What do I have to offer anyone else that is even relatively valuable enough to make me as successful as a Joe Rogan or a Sam Harris or a Jordan Peterson or a Theo Vaughn or whatever, right? What's the quality and the skill that I bring to the table that nobody else does? And you kind of come up with, when you ask that question and you're totally unprepared for it, you come up with no answer.
Yeah.
And that blank space is cause for concern, because then another question fires before you can answer that one.
Yeah.
And it's like, are you good enough? Another question answers, well, this is how you could be good enough. So you start looking into that.
Yeah.
And then another thing follows up. And it's like, well, you could start doing that, right? So like for me, if I'm breaking down the process, for me it was, okay, I want to make this podcast successful. In order to have a successful podcast, you got to learn how to do video editing. Okay, so we need to dive into that. Okay, going through video editing, I discovered that you got to have music, you got to have programs, you got to have podcast art, you've got to have all these ducks lined up in a row before you can even get to that stage. Okay, so now I'm invested in those 4 things. Now we're trying to sort out those 4 things. On top of that fact, I'm already trying to sort out my own things that are going on in my own life. I'm trying to sort out my weight. I'm trying to sort out my diet. I'm trying to sort out reconciling my time with those things. So I've got that stuff sidebarred on top of the podcast stuff. And then even more so onto that, it's what are the things that we can be doing to make this successful? What are the things that we can be doing on the side, on YouTube, on Instagram, on Twitter that can make this successful? Okay, that's another thing now I'm venturing into. So now I'm involved in 7 different things at the same time. And then also I start to look into, what if we could make this into a business? How do we make this into a business? What does that mean for us? Okay, that adds another 2 things onto my table. And then I've got work for 50 hours a week. And I wound up stretching myself so thin that I didn't even realize how thinly I was stretched. All I was doing was superficially dabbling in 19 things at once. Yeah. And I wasn't finding an answer to any of them, right? Where I have found my success in my life has been entirely based in strength and discipline. Entirely. When I don't know an answer to something, I pull up a book, I pull up a podcast, and I tune in and I check out everything else and I go full tilt into that. And I try and discover where the answers are. Yeah. And before moving on to the next one. Right. That process for me, well, not even that. It's not even that. Usually, this was my failing in the last couple of weeks. I am typically very reliant on, if you want to call it God, that's fine. If you want to call it the universe, that's fine. If you want to call it destiny or fate, whatever it is that you want to reference it as. I think that there is a cosmic binding that brings all this together. And it has shown me the answers to things in my life that I swear to God can't be coincidence. Yeah. And so sometimes when I get really stressed out, I let go. And I say, I'm just going to let whatever is out there, the universe, speak to me and see what it comes up with. And so I open myself up and then I start to dive into things. I start pulling threads. I start pulling threads on philosophy. I start pulling threads on psychology. I start pulling threads on business. I start pulling threads on podcasts. And now what I did was pull so many threads at once that I just unraveled the entire fucking blanket. Yeah. And
you're not letting the loom finish itself.
Right. It was not, for the first time in my life, that method of healing myself wasn't working. Yeah. And that brought a real fear, because I wasn't able to stop the voices that were pulling me down. And the only way that I really knew how to do that was failing. and I wasn't hearing the message. I wasn't seeing the results from where I was looking out into the world.
You needed to have your own fail point.
And well, it scared the absolute shit out of me because I thought that I thought that I had lost the connection to the faith or whatever it is, right? And my breaking point was getting out of my own head. It was realizing that it's okay to not know the answer sometimes. And it sounds really dumb and cliche. So let me unpack that. Mark and I had a conversation on Monday. This is like the fourth time that I brought this up. Okay. Yeah. Before that conversation, I was sitting at my desk and I had so much anxiety. I could not even figure out what to do with myself. I couldn't work. I couldn't think. I was trying to watch a seminar on business while simultaneously doing my work and also working on the podcast to go through the cover art. And I'm overextended, right? I know that I've got only a set amount of time before I have to go to yoga, and I got to do that today. I haven't eaten my lunch, and I'm already past my dietary time. So I've got all these factors going on at once, and I was so in my head and so ingrained and so stressed out because I'm just sitting in the back of my head like, you're never going to have enough time to make this work. You're never going to have enough purpose to make this work. Dedication, whatever it is, motivation. And it just kept firing. And there was a very successful gentleman that was sitting in our trailer, who I had assumed was the owner because of the way that he's been spoken of he was the owner of the developer at Area 15. So incredibly successful guy, obviously.
Head honcho of the head honcho. So
right. And we're talking about multi-million-dollar, like the project that we're working on right now is a $25 million project. And that's one portion of what there's actually going on at Area 15. If it's a very lucrative, we're talking about tens of millions of dollars, if not hundreds of millions of dollars that have invested into this property line so far.
Yeah.
So this guy has been at the top for that, to oversee that entire thing. So I was like sitting at my desk and there was just this little voice in my head that just said, go ask him what he would have done at your age. Like what would be the process to get started from where you're at? And I heard a little chirp in the back of my head and I was like, that's stupid. I'm not going to ask this guy who's my boss's boss. Like, I'm not going to just barrage him with this question. And he walked away. He said, see you guys later. I'm going to head out. And this is a normal occurrence. He's not ever there.
Yeah.
Right. This is the second time in 4 months that he's been there. And so he started to walk out the door and something said, go ask him. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. Like, and the door closed and it got louder and it said, go ask. And I was still being resilient to it. And I could hear him walk down the steps, and my brain turned on a mode of panic that is frequent in an anxiety attack, and just was like, go ask, or you're going to fucking freak out. I don't know what that was. I'm still trying to kind of figure it out, but I was like, all right, fine. Right? I went and I walked the fuck out of the trailer,
right?
And I came down the steps and he was gone. And so I panicked a little bit because I was already in a super anxiety and ridden, rattled mindset throughout the entire day. And I walked out and I walked out to the parking lot and I saw him standing over there. And I was like, oh my God, this is so awkward. This is so weird. Like, why am I doing this right now? I don't even understand why I'm out here.
Right.
And like, I started to like walk towards my car to make it look like I wasn't being a fucking weirdo.
And trying to stalk his ass. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I like got like 4 or 5 steps to my car and I just said, stop. Stop fucking lying to yourself. Stop being afraid of walking into whatever this is. Stop fearing the unknown. Maybe this guy shuts you down, whatever, and he doesn't talk to you, but maybe he gives you some sort of fucking keyed in advice that you would have never thought was possible, right? I didn't have that conversation, that end part, but it was basically just stop. Like, stop being so afraid of your own success.
Yeah.
And I pivoted and I literally beelined right for him. And I just asked. And it was the stupidest way I could have possibly asked it. It was just a random general, like, hey, I'm kind of, thinking about, I didn't compartmentalize or focus any of this. It was just a blurb of bullshit at him. Like, hey, I'm struggling with where I'm at right now. I've got a job that's a great job, but I'm not really finding any passion in it. I'm thinking about starting up a business, and I don't really know where to get started with that. Do you have any advice for somebody that's younger, like where to start looking, how to come across that? And this guy, he had nothing. Not in a bad way.
Yeah.
But there wasn't anything that was particularly wise about what he said.
Yeah.
There wasn't any insights that he shared that would have projected me forward, but something clicked in the fact that I was able to get out of my own way.
Yeah,
right?
it kind of answered you prevailed to your own, like, you didn't succumb to that fear anymore.
Right,
You took that initiative step to quiet down.
I stopped listening to the voices that wanted me to stay stagnant.
Yeah.
And I listened to the voice that wanted me to go forward. And when you called, I was trying to figure out, because I had no idea what the hell that meant at that time, but you called about 30 minutes later, and I was trying to figure out what the fuck that was. Because I've never had that combination of emotion and volume and like something just telling me to go do something. And we were having a conversation just about the Fiverr podcast art and what we wanted to change and blah, blah, blah. And it was very ipso facto, like very formal. And I stopped you in the middle of that conversation, and I was like, dude, I got to talk to you. Like, I need to just get this off my chest. And I just laid it out. Like, that I didn't know what was going on with me, but all I knew is that I was overwhelmed by this fear of everything. I was afraid of making a move in any direction because I was just so bogged down in my own lies and my own, not regrets, but something, I guess, similar to that. Regret's not the right word, but I can't think of a better way to phrase it. But I mean, we narrowed it down in that conversation, and what it came down to is that I figured out that at the root of all those fears, I was horrified of
being vulnerable.
Not that, but I was horrified to believe that I could be successful, right? Like, this is, how did I phrase this? I think I said something along the lines of, I'm scared that I found something to be this passionate about, and that if I pour in my passion to this, if I give it everything that I got, and it's not good enough, where does that leave me?
Yeah.
If I give my heart and soul and really, really just tune in, and no one listens,
where does that leave you then?
Where do I go from there, right? And that fear had paralyzed me.
Yeah.
It was the cause of all of the underlying emotion that caused all of the other questions, all of the other doubts. And I didn't even see it until we had talked about it. And that's what the vulnerability gave me access to, was answering that fucking question. Because I couldn't even answer it. I couldn't meditate. I couldn't do yoga. I couldn't take the normal, typical measures that I had to get to the root of what this answer was. There was nothing that the world was providing me that was giving me that answer until I talked to my boy, right? And I was completely caught off guard by the advice that he gave and the wisdom that he was able to express. And that was that set me free for the rest of that day. I went and had a conversation with Angela about it, and she was excited. She was like, I'm so happy that you got access to this. I'm so happy. This is such a massive step to understand that you can develop strength, right? There are different kinds of strength. There's strength for the sake of strength.
Yeah.
Which is my ability to persevere. And then there's strength through vulnerability, right? Which is, I think, closer to courage. It's looking the thing in the eye that you fear the most, the truth that you fear the most, or maybe it's a lie. It's the thing that could be true.
Yeah, that could be
that
true.
You think about yourself that scares you the most. When you are able to look that in the eye and say it out loud, it like takes away its power. At least it did for me. Telling you about that fear. And I told you, it was like, I literally just came to it in that conversation. It wasn't anything that I had rattling in my head. I literally didn't know it at the time. It's just, I accidentally said the words, I'm horrified. Right? Like, and I stopped when I said it because I wasn't ready to say that to anybody, to admit how scared I was of what it is that we were doing. And we had a great conversation that followed that, where Mark put to rest a lot of the fears that I was having and gave me hope that it wasn't, I was just being in my head. And it was so goddamn enlightening to realize for the first time in my life, well, not the first time in my life, but it was incredibly enlightening to realize that I could lean into a friend or a family member, and I could express the most vulnerable parts of myself. I could be as scared as I possibly could be, and get that stuff out and fall back into the strength of someone who I relied on. And that's the vulnerability part, right? That is if you're willing to take the step to be vulnerable, if you're willing to take the step to walk into that fear, you can begin to conquer it. And I'm blessed and lucky enough to have not only Mark, but to have a group of people around me who I appreciate and who appreciate me, who love me for who I am in a way that is damn near unconditional in almost every case. And I know that might not be true for everybody, but if you have those people, they're something that you should utilize in that journey, because they might be stronger than you think. And part of my whole shtick was, I didn't think that. A lot of the times I don't talk about those things because I don't think that the people who are around me have enough wisdom or enough knowledge or enough life experience to actually offer any advice that is valuable, which is why I go and look for all these really successful and wise people, right? And this is how the living moment to moment thing ties in. You were talking on the phone and had mentioned the drawer, right? When you were talking about the desk drawer.
Dude, I'm still, till this day, it's like, it's getting less and less cluttered. But
it goes till this day. It was 2 days ago, everyone.
Yeah, till this day. 2 days is a long time for me. But it really is. So like, okay, so here's my part of it, right? After we had this conversation, and I'm just sitting at my desk, just pondering while Alec was talking, and I decided to pull out my drawer, and we keep the conversation going. Alec is telling his story, and like me and him are talking, and I'm responding, but it wasn't like one of those like, I'm not giving truthful answers. Well, not truthful answers. I was just responding to the conversation. And then he starts hearing these noises. With these noises, he's like, dude, what are you doing there? It's like fucking drowning. It's something scratching. It's just these god awful noises, and I'm looking
Your
at
phone's in a blender.
yeah, right. And I'm looking down, and I'm trying to describe to him what I'm looking at, and it's me realizing, like, if I'm doing it right now, which I've already cleaned most of the clutter out, is that these objects in my desk that I've kept for so long that I thought were remotely innate to me, like, this is what I need. I need to hold on to this because this is the stuff that I eventually might need.
Right.
Started picking things out. Like, I don't have a use for this anymore. I don't have use for a majority of these things, and I start decluttering. I'm unloading while he's talking to me, in the same sense of, like, what he's expressing his feelings about is, like, I'm just, and I didn't even know that we were, like, hand in hand doing this. Is like, I'm starting to actually realize, like, well, this is like my life. There's too much clutter and there's too much noise that there's stuff that I'm holding on to that I need to get rid of, because I've enjoyed it at one point and I cherished it, but at one point it's gonna fade, and I only want to keep the most important things of it.
Right. And this is for sure. This gets at the heart of this. Is you are going to come to a time, every time, I think, that you get comfortable in your life and you feel like you got it figured out, and you've got all your stuff placed inside of your drawer, everything that you've needed and wanted and purchased and come to believe in, at some point or another, that's going to fail you. And that was exactly what had happened to me in this last couple of weeks, over this last 6 months, really, if I'm really being honest. And what you have to, where the point that you have to get to is that you have to be able to say to yourself, I can get rid of these things now, right? I have to dive deep into, not, let's put it this way, okay? I was looking, and I have always looked for an answer outside of myself. I've always looked for an external source of wisdom or information to give me ease, right? To give me relaxation, to restore me. And generally I find that. This week, I got to the point where that wasn't enough. I wasn't, no matter how many wise words I listen to, or people that I know are smarter than me, I couldn't connect the dots of what the hell was going on with me. And it wasn't even that Mark, per se, directly connected the dots. I mean, he absolutely helped, but it was my own willingness to let go and to admit I was scared, to admit that I didn't know, to admit that I was lost, to admit that I needed help. And when I did that, and I realized that there was someone else who was willing to lend a hand, who was willing to give an assist in that situation, I realized that I wasn't as alone as I thought it was going to be. I wasn't going to be taking this journey by myself. I wasn't going to fail because Mark wasn't going to let me fail, right, with the podcast. I wasn't going to fail because my parents weren't going to let me fail, because Theron wasn't going to let me fail, because my brother wasn't going to let me fail, right? There was a strength in realizing that I could be as vulnerable as I wanted to be. I could let down every wall that I have, and everybody was going to stand right next to me the same way that they were before. That was fucking monumental. That changed something inside of me so rapidly, so genuinely, that it was like I had come out of a cave. Yeah. I was talking to Angela about it, right? And I had this creep. When I get anxiety really badly, I get this creeping in the back of my head, and it's like it just starts to tighten, and it feels like small hands are just kind of working their way around my brain.
Oh, my goodness.
It just squeezes, and it doesn't let go. And it's like it turns into panic after a while, and it's just a very low grade panic. But as soon as I said that to you and you accepted it, it just let go. Like the hands just turned to ash inside of my head and they just disappeared. And I was like right back to who I was before. That was a revelation for me. And it really was. And now I have to go through the struggle of holding on to that. This is the step that is. Having the revelation is one thing, but being able to apply that revelation over and over again, right? The discipline. This is where the discipline matters, is being able to take that strength that I found and turn it into a source of power for me. Turn it into something that I can methodize and make it repeatable.
Yeah.
Right? This is what I was working on today. I had to take a day of rest. I was feeling miserable this morning, waking up, and honestly, I was right back into it. I had this incredible day on Monday after I let go, and most of Tuesday was really great. And then I kind of just crawled back into that shell. I crawled back into that anxiety, and I was sitting in bed this morning and I was just like, I have to take this day for me. I just have to. I need to sort this out, and I need to sit with myself for as long as it takes and figure out how this message of vulnerability applies in my life and how I can not manipulate, but accept this every day. And the way that I went about doing that was moment to moment. It's focusing on one thing.
Yeah.
I realized that it wasn't worth trying to solve 19 problems at once and doing it half-assed.
Yeah.
Because it was never going to solve any of them. All it was going to do was create more anxiety and more stress and more fear. Yeah. And I had to let that stuff go. I had to be vulnerable enough to let that stuff go, to say that, you know what, I'm not going to solve this now. I don't know how to solve this now. And I don't think that I can. And that's okay. It's all right to not fucking know. It's all right to just give into that sometimes. You're not giving up. You're just letting go. You're accepting the fact that you can't do all of this at once.
Yeah.
There are strengths and weaknesses to every person, and that doesn't make you a frightened or uncourageous person. Acknowledging those strengths and weaknesses, though, makes you wiser and will make you stronger and will make you better in the long run. I'm absolutely sure of it. And so I let go of a lot of that stuff today. I let go of my timelines and my expectations on what this process could be and should be. I let go of whether or not that this is going to be successful, or whether or not this could be a business. I let go of being discontent with my work because I think that I could find something better, because this could be it. And that was shading my contentedness in the workplace. I could see this thing on the horizon, and I was like, I just want that. This is shit. I just want that. And it's not just that, right? I have a great job, and I have great family, and I have great friends. And I look back on my life. I listened to a video, not a video, but an audio recording journal that I had done 2 years ago, earlier today. And in that audio recording, I was talking about the love lost between me and Jackie, right? And how that situation changed me, and how it had scarred me, and how it had blocked me off from the rest of the world. for everybody that doesn't know, Jackie was the first girlfriend that I ever had that I was in love with. It wound up in a complete and utter blowout and ruined me for years afterwards. Now that you know that about my life. So, that was 2 years ago. I was listening to that recording, and in that recording, I said, I just want to get, it was something along the lines of the happiest that I've ever been was when we were together, and it was really great. That was the happiest that I had ever been. And I paused that fucking recording right there, and I was feeling miserable and thought to myself, are you happier now than what you thought the happiest you had ever been was 2 years ago?
Oh,
and I had
God.
this
That's
fat
like the
grin.
ultimate, yeah.
I had this fucking fat grin come onto my face. And in the middle of being as miserable as I was, I realized that I was so much happier with who I am now as opposed to that person 8 or 9 years ago. That even so, that was 8.5 years ago now. And that recording was 2 years ago. So at the time of the recording, I had sat on that for 6 years. For 6 years, I didn't think that I had reached the same level of happiness as I had been here. I had just been dipped down and living in this for 6 years. And I was like, no fucking way. I was like, it made me smile. It really did.
Dude,
it just made me smile.
Way. That's one of those things,
We get
dude.
so fucking wrapped up in the micro progressions of our lives, where we start to make these journeys, and all that we do is take one step at a time. One step, we've talked about this before. Take one step at a time and love that one step, right? But it's so easy while you're losing 0.25 pounds a day over the course of 150 days. You know, you're only, what does that translate to on the scale? Why didn't I do a number that was 160 days? It's only 40 pounds. You've only lost 40 pounds in 160 days.
Yeah.
That 160 days is, somebody do quick math. 5 months, 5 months, 10 days, a little bit, something around those lines. 40 pounds in 5 months is not.
It's not a lot.
It's
right. It's substantial,
it's not,
but it's not a lot.
It is, but it doesn't feel like a lot.
And then that's
right?
what people lose track of when it.
This is the same, right? When you're only seeing, this is a metaphor, obviously, when you're only seeing the scale change drastically, not drastically.
Minuscule.
Right. Drastically minuscule, right?
Yeah, minuscule.
When you're only seeing the scale change very small increments every day, it's very easy to get caught up in the fact that it's not changing at all. And it's important. It's really important. And this is why I have officially decided to start emphasizing actionable journaling. It's really important to be able to look at that milestone and pull your head out of your ass and go, holy crap, I sounded like a moron 2 years ago. I was so stuck. Look at where I'm at now.
Right.
And it's a marker. It really is. It's a milestone that you can turn back to and point at and say, that's how far I've come. That is really how far that I've come, is that I've conquered 7 years of bullshit in 2. And I've put myself in a position where I am infinitely more happy with who I am and where I am, even though I'm fucking agonizingly miserable. If you can't smile at that.
Yeah, if you can't smile at that.
You might as well just fucking roll up. I was like,
dude.
I can't help you. Please go see a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
Like that is the culmination of that. So now that you've let me literally talk for 40 minutes, I mean, I could still keep going. This is the bad part too, is because I still have a whole nother series of revelations that I came to today. Like I'm not even joking. It's literally like,
because it leads.
The method.
It's not leading. Yeah.
I think I figured out how to turn it into a methodology. Really, I think I figured out. Oh, camera's doing a funny thing. Okay, there we are. what I came to was focusing on one thing at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It was, well, after I had heard that, I just kind of stopped. It was like, why is my life better now than it was?
Yeah.
And as I sort of got quiet and focused on that one thing, it became very apparent to me that I was then able to take one thing that was troubling me and put all my energy into it and let it go.
Yeah.
And so I was like, why can't I just do that again? And so I wrote that down in my journal. I think a possible solution is narrowing down those inquiries to just one and focusing on it, right? So I want to read this because I think it's very relevant. So I think I try to bring my focus onto just one thing. So often I'm caught up in trying to answer all of my questions all at once. Am I good enough? Do I practice enough? Where should my practice be taking me? Is my progress enough? Do I need to buckle down more? How do I find peace? How do I bring that peace to the world? How will people receive the message that I'm sending, right? All of these are all questions that I ask myself on a pretty regular basis. And by trying to find answers to these very difficult questions all the time, and at the same time, I'm just becoming more confused and overwhelmed. Even though the things I'm searching for are good in that they're aimed at bringing me forward, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm trying to answer questions that I'm not capable of yet because I lack the wisdom to understand the answer. And I think a possible solution is narrowing those inquiries down to just one thing and focusing on it.
Yeah.
Right? And so I did that. I walked out into the fucking house and I got up and I said, what is it that you want right now? And I thought bacon and eggs.
Oh, dude, now I'm starting to get hungry.
Right? I thought bacon and eggs. And I was like, okay, that's the only thing that you're going to focus on for the next, until it's done. You're going to make bacon and eggs and you're going to see it through until it's done. So that's what I did. And I walked over and I got the stuff out for bacon and eggs and I started to think about, oh, there's stuff that I need to do for work and blah, blah, blah. And I stopped and I said, just make bacon and eggs. And I did. And so I started to crack the eggs into the pan and I'm sorry, that's not the order that happens in. So I took out the pan and I started to warm the pan and I put the bacon onto the pan and I made a couple of pieces of bacon. Then the voices started coming back again. Oh, well, you should probably look at stuff for the podcast day. What about Fiverr? What about, and I stopped and I breathed and in my head, I just said, just make the bacon and eggs. And I did. And I sat there with that and I felt the warmth of the fire. It was like a meditation for me, but it was in action.
Yeah.
I felt the warmth of the fire. I smelled the bacon. I listened to the sound of it, right? And I was just present there for that whole time. And that same scenario repeated throughout over and over again is where I would start to
Wander.
get away from myself. Right. And I would just breathe. And I would say, just make the bacon and eggs. And so I finished that entire thing and I made my eggs, I made my bacon, I made extra and I set everything aside. And I focused on that whole process of, should I make more bacon than just for myself because maybe somebody else will want it? Should I make more breakfast because somebody else will want it, right? I had inquiries about the things that I was looking at. And I sat down and I ate and I expressed how grateful I was to just be here and just appreciate the food that I have and the ability to even do this. And I ate my meal and I focused on that meal. And I enjoyed every single bite of it. I enjoyed the over saltiness of the bacon. I enjoyed the gooiness of the egg. Like literally every step. I focused on literally every single mouthful and moment. And I extended that as long as I possibly could. And I just stayed there. And it was the quietest that my mind has been in a very long time, to just be in that moment. And what I realized is after that process was done, well, I had to clean and I had to put the stuff away and I had to do dishes, and then there were more dishes in the kitchen, and it was like, that is, I think, an extremely valuable lesson kind of hidden in a very mundane task is you can focus on something incredibly simple, and naturally as you complete that thing, more will come from it.
Yeah.
There will be more to just the bacon and eggs. It seems right now, whatever this is in your life, right? It might seem like the thing that you're doing is incredibly trivial. But if you do it well, if you do it through to the end, and you think about it the entire time, and you get to the end of that thing, you can take the next logical step, right? The next logical step was, at that time, to do the dishes and to clean the kitchen, because that would make the people that I was living with happy, to not have a kitchen that was destroyed and covered in bacon grease and all these other things. And so I took the next logical step, and then I focused on the cleaning. And after I finished the cleaning, the next logical, or wiping down the stove. After it was wiping down the stove, it was putting away the clean dishes. And after it was putting away the clean dishes, it was doing the dirty ones, because I had to put away the clean ones in order to make space for the dirty ones.
Yeah.
That process is exactly how you get from I'm so fucking discontent I can't move to wow, I can breathe again. It's focusing on one thing that you can change, one thing that matters, and seeing it through to its end. And then allowing the end of that thing to create something else, whatever that process is. And you're not going to know what it is. This is where the vulnerability comes in. You're not going to know what that is until you do the damn thing. Right? It's
Well,
literally
yeah.
it. Like, okay, how's this? All right? When the stove is messy and you make a decision to clean it, right? Do you wonder to yourself, like, you get to the stove and you're like, oh my God, how am I ever going to clean this mess? Like, I don't know how to clean. I don't understand, like, what chemicals do. I don't understand the way to apply them. And I don't think I can do this. I can't do this. There's no way to clean the stove, right? No. Most people, I don't think, do that. I don't think they have a panic-stricken moment when they look at a dirty stove. What they do is they set a clear intention in their mind of what a clean stove looks like. Then they pick up a fucking washcloth and they clean the stove. Lo and behold, you've got yourself a clean stove. So then the same approach, I think, can be taken to solving the problem of a wandering mind or a suffering heart, right? Instead of walking up to those things and saying, I have absolutely no idea how to do this. How will I ever clean this mess up, right? I barely know myself, let alone what I need to mend my broken dreams. Can I even do this? You're getting lost in what it could be instead of just doing it.
Yeah.
All you have to do is set a clear image in your head. All you have to do is set an idea of who you want to be, what you think you could be, what could solve that problem that you're chewing on right now. Set a clear image for it and just try to meet that. Pick up your washcloth and start wiping shit down. Maybe you surprise yourself in that you complete something and it opens up a door to something else. And after 4 or 5 simple tasks, maybe you've made it there. But it's better than sitting there in that fear, I can tell you that right now, and trying to let the rest of the world answer your problems for you. Because you're not always going to be able to find that algorithm on fucking YouTube. You're not always going to be able to find the right words in the books that you're reading, or from the people that are speaking to you, or from the podcasts that you're listening to. At some point or another, you have to be enough for you. Your wisdom is No one knows you better than you, and no one's ever going to be able to tailor their wisdom better
than yourself.
Yourself, right? You're never going to find that. It'll inevitably pay off in the long run to just get quiet with yourself. And if you can do that with bacon and eggs,
yeah.
If you can do that with every part of your life,
yeah, you can do that with just looking at a drawer. So
you can, and that is the point to meditation. I believe is to learn how to do that, to be in the moment with every single thing that you can, because now you can learn from anything. Now wisdom isn't something that's only accessible through wise people. Wisdom is something that's accessible through direct experience. You can look at a drawer and say, fuck me. My life is just like this drawer. Right? It's cluttered and it's messy and there's a bunch of things in it that I don't need anymore, and it's preventing me from being able to open it up further. Right? That's the exact same revelation that I sat there and made while I was making fucking bacon and eggs.
Yeah, dude, that's why. See, this is why, I let Alec ramble and ramble on, but the more he talks, he just puts the best foot forward, especially in times like these, that help me understand and will, hopefully see sight to what you guys can understand, is that he helps me realize that by decluttering my fucking desk, being able to look at this, something as simple and very, very minuscule in life as this, that I've cherished this has brought me joy, and it's now time to kind of let go. Well, not with this cable. I actually do need this cable. But, just take that in a sense.
Right, you're just gonna drop a Thunderbolt cable?
Yeah,
like
dude.
That? Like, what?
No, but it's helping me realize, at one point in time that I can look back and realize, hey, I'm ready to let this go and venture off into something new, as long as, like what Alex said in the last good part of the telenovela, that it's all right just to focus on that thing, to focus on cleaning that fucking stove, and then other things will arise from that afterwards. So, I don't know, that's how I thought of it. It was very insightful to me, and it means a lot to me because, as it sounded like for a better good half for I don't know how long, that it was like a one-man show. I was listening, right? This is what I want other people to do, is listen. I just need to talk.
It was a long time. I'm sorry, everybody. But honestly, if we're looking at a point of vulnerability, right? Like, I think that's something that is a point of vulnerability for you, is jumping in more and making yourself known. I mean, at this point, we've only got 4 people that are probably watching this, so I mean, they're going to get a big kick. They're going to get a kick out of it, but at the same time, it's not just saying the words, right? Like, I'm not able to express this stuff because I read a bunch of books. I'm able to say these things because I live them, and because I really do pay attention to them, and because I mean them. There is intention to every single second, or I try to give intention to every single second that I'm here, because I think that it's worth the time. It's worth my energy to figure out the answers to these stupid fucking questions that roll around in my head absolutely and constantly, because it might help somebody else out in the future. It might give guidance to someone else, right? And whether it's you or whether it's someone else, whether it's my mother or Theron or Sierra or someone at work or someone I meet on the street, it doesn't matter to me who the person is that it reaches. I'm just hoping that it reaches somebody. And I think that Mark, while he did not talk very much this podcast, absolutely believes that same thing. And he, trust me, has the capability to also relay these messages, because he fucking flat out put me on my butt earlier this week when I opened up to him. I was not expecting to get the laydown of actual wisdom that he put forward about my previous my previous work experience and how that's tied into my anxiety currently, and what that's feeding into and what I'm trying to run from and why I'm doing it. There was so many pieces of the puzzle that he was able to put together for me. So,
see, this is what it's like to have Penn and Teller do a podcast, which is really good in a sense. But when I do talk, it's behind closed doors. So everybody needs to get on our fucking Patreon and decide to subscribe. See, told you. Half of this stuff is bleeped out because it's not on Patreon.
I should just spit all over the place because they would have made for a funnier blooper reel. But I'm gonna tell you what, right now, I really almost lost that one. I really almost lost that one.
This is fucking raw. So,
what I will say is this, and then so I can stop saying things. No matter how smart you are, you're gonna get to the point in your life where, if you're not honest with yourself and you're not careful with the things that you believe, and you're not careful with your time, and you're not careful with your own emotion and what it is that your drive is doing to that emotion, you're gonna burn out. And you might get to a point where you burn out and you didn't put in the work. You didn't put in the effort to figure out how to get out of that situation because you thought that you were just going to coast. I've been guilty of that. And sometimes it's not even about that. It's not even about willingly degrading yourself or anything along those lines. It's just, you just don't know. You're not going to see it coming. You're going to think that you're prepared and you're not. But if you're not willing and ready and able to take the time with yourself when you fail, nobody else is going to want to. I think that a lot of the strength that I have in the relationships that I have now is because I've been an open and honest person 95% of the time. It's just that 5% that I really, really hide the dark shit. And it's given me access to a group of incredible people who are willing to stand by me through thick and thin. And I think that if you're missing that in your life and you don't know where to go to get that, if you start with that honesty, if you start with answering those questions about yourself, if you start with looking inward and figuring out where the problems begin, that when you're open and you're honest with yourself and you let that out into the world, that people resonate with it. They automatically come closer to you. They don't even know why, but they just want to be a part of someone's life who is trying to put it together.
Yeah.
Whether or not it's because they appreciate that or because they're trying to learn from it. So take your time with it. And I know that it's easy to write off as just nonsense, but I don't know. I think that there's probably some validity to it somewhere. Either that, and maybe I just might save you a fucking really shitty week in the future at some point.
Right? I mean, just
God, if that's all.
Yeah, dude. All it takes is just to bookmark this, put it on your own back burner, and then eventually these words are gonna come into fruition. And be like, yo, man, 5 years down the line, it clicked, and the only way for us to talk about it, and I can't stress you this anymore, is just like with Alec and Johnny Walker. 5 years down the line, you probably just have the only way to talk this is with Patreon. And, sorry, that gravy boat's left. That gravy boat has left the station. All right, Johnny Walker Blue, when we become Patreon exclusive, I'm going to tell you what. We're going to have a lot of people paying us money. All right? Your sponsorship is going to mean the world to me. I will still take it 5 years down the road, okay? So seriously, JB Blue, right here. I'm here for the long haul. Yeah, dude. And I swear, by next week episode, well, I don't want to swear. Because
also, I hate all other brands of scotch. Just, I'm pretty sure that I do. Other than like Pappy Van Winkle,
Oh,
I'm a
wait,
ritzy bitch when it comes to scotch.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I think anything under $250 a bottle just tastes like a tree blended up with a Sharpie. That's pretty much my opinion.
Yeah, that's kind of accurate of me too. Well, no, I'd like to dabble into, some
Like that
other
ain't
stuff.
accurate. You're a scotch fanatic.
Yeah, that's true. But I still like to dabble in like weaker scotches. So I realize I have a greater appreciation for the most expensive shit. So
It's like I like to drink Jack Daniels so that when I pull out the Pappy, I really understand how shitty it is.
no offense, Jack and your family, but still though, I mean, but I don't want to make any promises, but I am working on my own vulnerability, and by next week, at least, just like in the movie Dunkirk, 200 word set. There you go.
200 words, huh? Shoo, that's a tall order to fill, Mark. You might have to say 7 or 8 sentences in order to get 200 words.
Yeah, dude. I mean, look at now. Dude, that's 15.
That's
That is
15.
right there. 16, 17, 18, 19. Me saying these numbers are just words.
You know what you need to do? You need to watch Best of the Best, bro.
Oh,
You need to go on Netflix. And you need to type in Best of the Best. And you're going to find a martial arts film from 1989. That is one of the best B-class rated films you will ever see. The acting is terrible. The plot line is predictable. The soundtrack is the 80s. It's like, oh God,
fight the best that you ever was.
It's like a combination, of Pokemon and a knockoff Journey band. It's like travel through the sea of fire to find your heart. And then dudes on motorcycles, and they're like going through mountain passes, and you're like listening to this knockoff Journey as this guy is talking about setting his pants on fire in a sea of love, and it's like, I don't understand who was the person that signed off on these things, but it's a great movie. It's got a great message. The ending, kiss the cast and crew and the director, because there wasn't a whole lot of suspenseful build up to it, but James Earl Jones is in it, and that's a reason worth watching in and of itself, because he's a fucking badass. He makes the main character of the story. He tells him that he can't do karate internationally because his son gets hit by a car, and he's like, if you leave, you're off the team. It's like, wait, what? What did you just, what year is this? Did you just tell him? He's like, my son's dying in the hospital. I gotta go see him. I'm across the world. No. Karate or your son. Choose. Holy fuck. James Earl Jones a thug, bro. That is just a snippet of what is in store from Best of the Best. Check it out.
Yeah,
Check
dude.
it out. If you haven't, check it out.
We're going to test you on this. This is the homework, dude.
That should be a whole nother segment of our show. It's just B-class movies.
I think it is. I really think it is, because we're going to bring back our whole segment of who could top the best,
Rage in the
worst,
Cage.
best. Yes, the Cage, bro. The Cage.
Nobody beats the Cage.
Yeah, that's true. We do need to table that, because we're gonna bring that into fruition of a segment of Rage in the Cage. You can't tell me Bruce Willis can do that. Die Hard? No, get the shit out of here. Nobody wants to talk about a dirty cop like that.
Whoa. Don't talk about Die Hard like that's a shitty movie, okay?
It's not
the 80s got a lot of things wrong, but Die Hard was not one of those things.
But Con Air came, bro.
Con Air was Nick Cage. Die Hard saying. Bruce Willis?
Yes, it was Bruce Willis. He had hair back then.
What's the one with Mel Gibson?
Lethal Weapon.
Oh, there you go. It's the same shit, different day. Okay,
I'm just saying. I'm just telling you that when
someone just threw their fucking computer at the screen, as I said, same shit, different day on Lethal Weapon and Die Hard, but it's all right.
They still had angry cops involved, so it's all good.
They still had angry white cops. Hey, Lethal Weapon was progressive. They had Danny Glover in it.
Yeah, but he was always saying, I'm sick of this shit. So.
Well, I mean, Mel Gibson was a total tool in that movie. I don't blame him for a fucking second.
Yeah, but then, a couple decades later, he made Passion of the Christ, so it's all good. So,
Danny Glover?
no, Mel Gibson. Dude, this is when you know we need to end the podcast. Dude, you're mixing up. It's getting a little bit too urban spice in here, dude.
This is Danny Glover on the cross with a crown thorn on his head, like, I'm dying for your sins. It's like, God damn it, Danny Glover, you did it again.
Dude. If that was
First Lethal Weapon, now you're Jesus. I don't even understand this transition, but fucking A, you just did it.
Dude, all I can think of is just Danny Glover on the cross being Jesus saying, I'm sick of this shit.
In a world where Danny Glover is Jesus.
I'm sick of this shit.
He's sick of this shit.
All right. So I think that's a good way to intro the outro. So play that funky beat, Bill.